My parents missed my engagement to attend their Golden Boys football game. Now they're shocked that I didn't invite them to my wedding. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I always knew my parents had a favorite child. My younger brother was what everyone in the family called the Golden Boy. From an early age, he excelled at sports, particularly football. My parents, especially my father, were obsessed with his athletic potential. Every weekend of my childhood was spent on bleachers, cheering him on at some game or tournament, while I sat quietly with a book, hoping someone would notice if I did anything noteworthy. As we grew older, it became more pronounced. When I graduated high school, my parents sent me a polite congratulations and moved on. But when my brother scored a touchdown in some minor regional game the following month, they threw him a huge celebration. I quickly realized that no matter what I accomplished, he always took center stage. Still, I never harbored real resentment until recently. I accepted that was just how our family worked. I studied hard, found my own interests, and moved out at 18 to pursue an independent life. My parents sometimes texted me about how proud they were of me, but it always felt half-hearted, overshadowed by updates on my brother's next big football match or his glitzy training program. Then I met the person who would become my fiancé. We clicked almost instantly, someone who truly valued my interests and respected my experiences. After a couple of years of steady dating, I planned a small engagement event at a local restaurant to share the big news with a handful of close friends and immediate family. I sent out an invitation to my parents, siblings, and a couple of family friends. It wasn't going to be a huge party, just a cozy dinner with a brief announcement. My parents initially seemed enthusiastic, telling me, "Of course, we'll be there." We wouldn't miss it for the world. For a moment, I felt a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd see me as more than second fiddle. That this pivotal milestone, my engagement, would be recognized with genuine support. But on the day itself, their seats stayed empty. Guests started arriving, congratulating me and my fiancé, hugging us, asking about wedding dates. I kept checking my phone, scanning the doorway, waiting to see my parents rush in with last-minute apologies. Nothing. An hour into the evening, I received a text from my mother. "We can't make it. Your brother's team had a big game. Sorry, we'll catch up soon." My heart sank. I tried not to let it ruin the moment, but people noticed my deflated expression. My fiancé, ever supportive, squeezed my hand, whispering that it would be okay, that we'd have a wonderful evening anyway. We did our best to salvage the celebration, and it was a lovely dinner with close friends. But deep down, the disappointment festered. My parents hadn't even bothered to show up or call in advance. They prioritized a football match over my engagement. In the following days, I received no phone call from them. No apology, just a perfunctory text once more stating, "We'll see you next time." My father tacked on a line about how my brother's game went amazingly and how proud they were. I felt a swirl of anger and sadness. It wasn't just about missing one event, it was a lifetime of playing second fiddle. My engagement, arguably one of the biggest moments of my adult life, was brushed aside for yet another football victory. That's when I made a decision, one that would set the stage for the confrontation to come. I didn't confront my parents right away. Instead, I tried to process it on my own. My fiancée noticed how quiet I'd become in the days after the engagement party. She asked if I wanted her to reach out to my parents, maybe try to patch things up. I told her no. I'd had enough of being the peacemaker, the one who always glossed over their disregard for my life's milestones. A few weeks later, my parents invited me over for a family dinner. My father texted that it had been a while since they'd seen me, and that my mother was cooking my favorite meal. Part of me hoped this was their way of apologizing. So I showed up, a bit anxious, hoping for some acknowledgement or explanation for their absence. My brother was there, perched proudly in the living room, surrounded by trophies and photos of his big wins. My mother fussed over him, praising his athletic prowess and how he'd go pro if he kept it up. During dinner, I waited for someone, anyone, to mention my engagement. Maybe to ask how my fiancé was doing, or when the wedding might be. But the entire meal revolved around my brother's upcoming championship. My father recounted the game they'd missed my engagement for, describing every thrilling moment as if it were the highlight of his life. My mother chimed in with detail upon detail of the scoreboard, the cheering crowds, how proud they were. My sister, who was also present, tried to steer the conversation toward me at one point. "So how's the wedding planning?" But my father just waved it off, saying we'd talk about that later. Then it was back to football talk. I left that night feeling invisible. It struck me that they had no remorse for missing my engagement celebration. To them, it was just a minor inconvenience overshadowed by my brother's athletic achievements. As I drove home, a decision solidified in my mind. If they couldn't be bothered to show up for me, why should I revolve my life around them? Soon after, we started planning the wedding in earnest. My fiancé and I agreed on a modest ceremony with close friends. Though I'd once pictured a wedding with extended family present, the engagement fiasco changed my perspective. I began to question whether I even wanted my parents to attend. My fiancé, knowing the depth of my hurt, said gently, "It's your call. I'll stand by whatever you decide." I wrestled with a choice for days. The idea of a wedding without my parents felt heavy. But so did the thought of them showing up out of obligation, only to dash off if my brother had some sporting event the same weekend. I tried one last time to speak with them, hoping for a heartfelt conversation. I phoned my mother, asked if we could talk one-on-one. She brushed me off, saying they were busy helping my brother prepare for his next tournament, but maybe next week. That was the final blow. There was no dramatic showdown, just the quiet realization that they weren't going to change. They were always going to orbit around their star athlete, and my wedding wasn't going to break that pattern. So I made the call. My parents wouldn't be invited. I wanted a day free of the tension, the overshadowing, the inevitable heartbreak if they decided last minute to ditch me for another game. I sent out the wedding invitations to siblings and close friends, but excluded my parents entirely. This, I thought, might actually grant me some peace. But little did I know, the real explosion was yet to come. Word spread fast among our extended family that my parents were conspicuously absent from the wedding guest list. My sister called me, sounding uneasy. Mom and Dad just found out they're not invited. They're furious. They're calling me, demanding to know what's happening. I braced myself. It was one thing to quietly cut them out, but another to face their outrage head-on. Sure enough, my phone blew up with text from my mother. "How dare you exclude us from your wedding? We're your parents." My father followed with an indignant phone call, leaving a voicemail so loud I could barely understand it. "After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us." The irony wasn't lost on me. They missed my engagement for a football game, but now acted shocked I didn't want them at my wedding. My mother's messages grew more manipulative. She threatened that people will talk, that I'd regret humiliating the family, and that we deserve an invitation. None of it acknowledged why I made this decision. No apology, no understanding. Just raw entitlement. My father, meanwhile, texted something along the lines of, "Your brother's upset too. You're tearing this family apart." I almost laughed. My brother had everything revolve around him for years, but now that I took a stance, they claimed I was the destructive force. My fiancé suggested we ignore them, let them stew. But a part of me wanted closure. So I decided to have one final conversation. I invited my parents to meet me at a neutral location, small cafe. My father came first, face tight with anger, and my mother arrived shortly after, looking wounded and defensive. They wasted no time accusing me. "Why are you punishing us? We're the ones who raised you." I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "You missed my engagement. You didn't even bother to call or apologize. You brushed me off every time I try to talk about it. I need you to see how hurtful that was." My mother rolled her eyes, retorting, "We were supporting your brother. He needed us at that game. It was important for his future." My father chimed in, "You can't expect us to drop everything just because you had a dinner, can you?" Dinner. They reduced my engagement party to just a dinner. I felt a familiar surge of frustration. It wasn't just a dinner. It was the moment I announced my commitment to the person I love. You were invited, and you confirmed you'd come. Then you bailed with no notice. That's when my mother tried a different tactic, guilt. "We've given you so much over the years, and now you're shutting us out? It's not fair." My father added, "Think about what people will say when they find out we weren't at your wedding." I could hardly believe their audacity. Not a single word about my happiness or well-being, only their own image and convenience. I stared at them for a moment. "I wanted you there, but you've shown me over and over that you'll choose my brother's events over mine. I'm done feeling second best on what should be the most important day of my life." That's why you're not invited." My mother began to speak, but I cut her off. "I've made my decision. If you genuinely cared, we'd be having a different conversation right now, an apology, an attempt to make amends. Instead, you're demanding an invitation like it's your right. I'm sorry, but no." My father's face turned red, and my mother stormed off, flinging accusations like, "You're selfish." My father lingered, trying to reason with me. "Son, your brother's got real potential. He might go professional, and we had to show him we're there for him." I stood my ground. "That's your choice, but it has consequences." Then I left. As the wedding approached, drama flared. My parents spread the word that I was ungrateful, turning some extended family members against me temporarily. I got calls from a couple of aunts urging me to reconcile. One said, "Blood is thicker than water. Don't do something you'll regret." But I stood firm. If my parents wanted to be part of my wedding, they had to acknowledge their failure to support me at crucial moments, and they clearly refused. A week before the ceremony, my sister mentioned my parents threatened to crash the wedding, saying they wouldn't accept being sidelined. My fiancé and I quickly informed the venue staff that if they appeared uninvited and caused a scene, we'd have them removed. I hated stooping to that level, but we weren't taking chances. The day of the wedding came, bright and beautiful. My fiancé looked stunning, and as I stood at the altar with close friends and family by my side, I felt a wave of gratitude. Sure, it stung that my own parents weren't there to witness it, but looking around, I realized I had a real family in the people who showed up. My sister, supportive friends, and even a few extended relatives who chose to remain neutral. Everyone was smiling, genuinely happy for us. It was more than I could have asked for. The ceremony went off without a hitch. My parents didn't show up. A small part of me kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting them to barge in, but they never did. The reception was a blur of laughter, toasts, and dancing. My sister proposed a toast herself, acknowledging the love between me and my new spouse and gently alluding to the importance of respecting each other's big moments in life. It was subtle, but everyone understood. In the days after, I heard that my parents had fumed at home, complaining about how they'd been betrayed. Some relatives tried to guilt-trip me, but more reached out with quiet support, saying they understood. My father later texted me an angry message, "You'll regret this someday. Don't expect us to be around when you need family." It hurt, but I recognized it as yet another attempt at manipulation, not genuine heartbreak. A month later, my brother had yet another important football game. My father broadcasted proudly how they traveled miles to see him play. I realized the cycle continued. My brother's achievements remained a top priority. Meanwhile, not once did they ask about my married life or how we were settling in. At that moment, I fully understood the lengths to which they'd gone to elevate one child at the expense of the other. But despite all that, I found peace in my decision. My wedding day was a celebration free from overshadowing drama or half-hearted applause. My new spouse and I started our married life without the constant reminder of my parents' favoritism. Sure, it's bittersweet. Part of me always wanted to share that milestone with them. Yet, the reality is they consistently showed me where their loyalty lay.